Hey, HannahMouse1 here. Welcome back to my daily Christmas game mini devlog series. This is part 4 of the series, so you might want to check out the first parts if you haven't already. It will just give you some context for what we're doing here. I have a lot of small things to show you today. The changes I'm making are a lot less fundamental now and a lot more about polish, so it might not seem like as much, but I actually spent way more time on the game today than I have in the past 2 days. But regardless, let's see what we've got, shall we? I start with getting the boss to spawn at the end of the game instead of the beginning. I'd only put it there for testing, but I want it to be the final level to beat before you get to the end of the game. I then play through the game a few times and make a few tweaks because I found it really difficult, which might just be because I'm bad at games like this, but you know, if I can't beat it, then it might be a bit unfair to expect the players to. I make the max health increase to 10 from 5 when you get to the halfway point in the game, so you can take a few more hits from the harder enemies. I also make the snowmen a bit less of a pain because they were killing me every single time, so I have them fire 6 snowballs instead of 8. I also make the health pickups give you more health once your max health increases, so they remain effective in the second half of the game. I then want to sort out player death and respawning because as it stood I just had it stop the game altogether, but I wanted to actually give a respawn system. But for that I needed a counter that showed the current room number so that you can see how far the respawning set you back. Basically it sets you back to the last room that had a present in it. I get the counter to bounce slightly every 5 levels as a little congratulations. I then start to actually program in the respawn mechanic, getting the player to switch to the correct costume and getting the screen to fade out. I then get it to set to the correct wave, which is 1 if you died prior to stage 5 or else it's the previous multiple of 5. I hate when games mess you around too much for failing, so I make it throw you straight back into things with like no muss, no fuss. I get the room to spawn in and the player to enter as usual, and I get the enemies to spawn in if you're respawning to level 1. I make sure that projectiles disappear when you die and that the door is open if you respawn in a present room. I make sure that the boss respawns if you respawn on his chamber, which will happen if you die to the boss. I then want to have an ending to the game, so I make it so that in the room after the boss you get to save Santa. You find him tied up in his sack, so I create all the costumes for this, including a fun wiggling animation for when he's in the sack. I just think that's really funny. I get him to spawn in and sort out the sack animation. I make it so that hitting the sack reveals Santa, and I make him appear in front or behind the player as appropriate. I spent the rest of the day starting to make the art for the opening cutscene. There is still so much work to do on this, it's unreal. That'll be my task for tomorrow, I guess. The first shot is of Santa sitting on his chair and working on his nice list. I first block him out with basic shapes, and when I have all that in place in a way that I like, I start getting more detailed and more in line with the style I've been working with. I create all of the flooring and give Santa an outline, much like I do in the rest of the game. And I also create some text for what Santa is saying. I use the same style of font as I used for the room counter. With stuff like that, it's important to keep a consistent style. I animate his hand moving back and forth as though he's writing. This animation will just loop constantly until the player hits the space bar because obviously there's no voice acting, so the text, you have to just read it, and people read at different speeds, so it's hard to estimate how long people need, so I'm just going to give that control to the player, so they have to hit space in order to move on. And I get the animation to play when you hit the green flag. But that's all I managed to get through today. Sorry it wasn't too much, but the art for the cutscene is really slow progress. I'm happy with where this game is, and I'm confident we'll have it done by the deadline. So apart from that, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, it lets me know that this is something you want to see more of, and apart from that, I will see you tomorrow with the next part of this series. Bye!